So let's talk. Let's talk about what we're eating these days. Let's talk about the food at the supermarket, the food you bring home, the food you cook. Let's talk about what you eat. Well, here's a bit of a bombshell for you. Did you know that 80% of processed foods contain genetically modified organisms? So what really is GMO? Well, if we're going to talk about GMO, we should probably start at the farm. No, wait. Actually, let's start somewhere else. Let's start with science. Let's start in the labs. What's going on in the labs? Genetic modification. Genes in the seeds for crops like corn, soy, and wheat are altered in a lab so that the plants can grow larger and resist disease more effectively. And what do we get from that? Well, we get crops, and more crops, which is generally a good thing. But remember, GMO isn't natural. Genetically modified crops contain proteins that are not natural to the plant. These proteins cause immune reactions in our bodies that can promote the development of autoimmune diseases. But wait, what's an autoimmune disease? An autoimmune disease develops when your immune system decides that your healthy cells are foreign, and as a result, your immune system attacks healthy body cells. That's not good. There are over 100 autoimmune diseases today, and that number is growing. I won't talk about all the diseases, but here are a selection of the more common and deadly autoimmune diseases that you can see impact all parts of the human body. Some of these autoimmune diseases are fatal, and others will just make you feel bad. And when you feel bad, you'll go see the doctor, and he'll lay you down and ask you how you're feeling. The doc will probably want to look inside you and see how you're doing, and see how your body's reacting to all the things you've been putting inside of it. And ultimately, what are they going to find? They'll find that you're part of the growing 16% of Americans that have some form of an autoimmune disease. 16% doesn't sound very high? Well, that's just like 1 out of every 6 people having an autoimmune disease. That's pretty high. What's more alarming is that way back in 1996, just 3% of people in the US had an autoimmune disease. That's a 433% growth rate. So what happened in 1996? That year marked the first year that GMO products were introduced commercially into the United States. In 1996, there was just 1.7 million hectares of genetically modified crops around the world. Fast forward to 2012, just 16 years later, and now you have 170 million hectares of genetically modified crops around the world. Just to put it into context, to grow from 1.7 million hectares in 1996 to 170 million hectares of genetically modified crops in 2012, that's a growth of 100 times. That's incredible. Now let's bring these numbers together and compare them against the same time periods. So from 1996 to 2012, the number of genetically modified crops grew 100 times. And in that same period, the percentage of Americans with autoimmune diseases went up 433%. Coincidence? I don't think so. I think it's becoming clear that today's GMO products simply aren't good for you. They're also not good for our healthcare system. The annual direct healthcare costs to treat autoimmune diseases in the US is around $100 billion. $100 billion is a lot of money, but I bet we're spending a lot of money to fix this, right? Well, not really. We're only spending $591 million to find cures for what's essentially causing harm to over 50 million Americans today. But let's get back to you. Let's get back to what you need to do. And that means eating right, eating the right things. That means checking the nutrition labels to see what's inside those products you're about to put in your body. In particular, watch out for things like soy, cottonseed, canola, corn, and papaya, because these things have a really high concentration of genetically modified crops. And when you're in the store, look for products that are verified to be non-GMO from the Non-GMO Project. And of course, exercise. You do those things, and chances are you'll be a lot healthier. And chances are, if you're a lot healthier, you're going to be